Okay. Good afternoon and welcome to the December 15th, 2022 Allen County Public Library Board Meeting. And we will begin with the roll call. Mr. Williams?
Present.
Mr. Castleman?
Present.
Mr. Seifert?
I'm here.
Mr. Eisbach? Absent. Ms. Tucker? Mr. Moss? And Ms. Shamanoff, present. Adoption of the agenda, if we may have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Second. Okay. And may, with the approval of the minutes, may we put those three together? The minutes of the regular session, November 17th, 2022, minutes of the executive session, November 17th, 2022, and the minutes of approval of claims for December 9th, 2022.
Point of order. We have to approve the agenda first. We didn't take a vote.
We did not take a vote,
Nope.
so sorry, thank you. We had a motion from Marty, so,
And I
And
think
a
second
second
from Jim.
from-
yes, Jim,
Yep.
okay. And going on then to the approval of minutes, can we?
Whoop.
No,
Jim?
all those in
No.
favor?
Vote.
As you notice, I'm a novice, so bear with me today. We could have a vote?
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Okay, aye. Moving on to the approval of the minutes. Those minutes would be, if you so choose, we could do them all together.
I move that we approve all the minutes listed as you've stated, Michelle.
Thank you. Could we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. And all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Moving on to the financial report for November 2022.
Thank you, Gloria. The agenda's kind of long. There's not a lot to discuss in the treasurer's report. Two items that are here that you've all seen before. The first being the transfer between appropriations, and we'll talk about that later. But there are really not that many this year, and actually none are moving between categories. They're all staying within categories, so that was good. And then the treasurer's bond, which is something that we're still required to have. It's $100,000. Our main coverage comes from our directors and officers' insurance for the $10 million, but as an entity, I'm still required to have that treasurer's bond. So those are the main things coming up here later in the agenda. No, there's only one other area on the lines that we're going over budget, which I'm going to move money into, and that was we moved in a lot of the different, as you can see, professional services is the line. And because of the things we've had this year, the financial advisors for the facility master plan, Baker Tilly, the marketing for Wayne TV, all the ads and things we do with that. And then finally, the salary study that was just completed and we used for the adjustments in the November meeting. Those were all hitting this year, and that took that over the budget just a little bit. But I've made appropriations for the transfers on that. But that's the only thing new to report.
Any questions?
I had a question, a little bit. I noticed on the spending for capital, it was pretty low at this point in the year.
Right.
I know that some of that's just probably in response, I would assume, to the other capital work we're talking about doing a little bit, but do we potentially see some of that happening in December, or is there more that comes down the line? I thought that was pretty low for the year.
Yes to both. There's some that are timing issues, and we are about to put the order in. Actually, the order's gone in for all the scheduled computer replacements. We have that cycle. We would usually finish that in October, but they're doing it in December this year because of all the other work that's going on.
Okay.
So that's going to be a couple of $100,000 going in there that'll be spent. Plus, some of these end-of-year projects just have to be billed. And that's what we're working with, like Train and Hattersley and things like that. So you'll see the December report will spike up
Okay.
quite a bit
good.
and stuff. Yep.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions?
Dave, I have one question. Just those gates. What's going on with those gates?
I just noticed that too.
Free day. Yeah, I wish I had a good answer for you, but the issue is, and I was just talking to Shannon, our security manager, before this meeting. The issue is the system reading the library card number. So we set the system up. A person should be able to take their library card, the number, scan it at the outlot machine.
And they can use the app too, right?
Or the app.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's not functioning. So consequently, one of the things I need to talk to senior staff about is we could lower the gates. And the impact is you would still be able to use credit card to go in and out, and patrons would still be able to take their ticket like we did before this and validate it here in the building, and the gates would open. But we can't open them at that location with your card or the app. It's not speaking to the database well enough. We are trying to get Signature Care to do their work and get that fixed, but as of now, they aren't. And so it had been a decision to keep the gates up so that the patrons weren't getting like, wait, I want out and stuff. But like all things in the chain or the supply chain, how long will this go on before that gets fixed? And do we want to lower them and ask patrons with enough pre-warning to, you need to get that ticket validated inside the library? So,
Okay.
yeah, that's where we are with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any further questions? Okay. Moving on, if we could have approval of the claims.
Do you approve the report?
I believe
The
so.
Yeah.
Do we
Make
do
a
that
motion
too?
to approve the report.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was part of my motion.
Second.
So, yeah, I move to approve the claims.
Okay. And a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll bring these around. It's one of the smallest claim registers I can
Okay.
remember, but it's still needed.
Our next on our agenda is a resolution to transfer appropriations within operating funds.
Right, and as I mentioned earlier, these are all, I've got a memo and a report there behind it that indicates the lines. These are only lines, by the way, that are going over budget of the official budget, not our internal budget. So, something, needs to be gone in there. And as I said, there's nothing taking place outside of the categories. You may recall, and I don't want to get into detail with you, but really our budget includes 4 numbers: personnel services, supplies, professional services, and capital items. All of the transfers are staying within, so the decreases in services are being covered by excess in services. There's nothing going in between lines. So they're really just mopping up and cleaning things up before we go in for the end-of-year reports.
Okay.
Total of them is $534,500, which is about $200,000 less than last year. So,
Do we require,
I'll make a
yeah.
motion to approve the Resolution 2002-04.
thank you, Mr. Kesselman.
I will second. I think you said meant 2022-04.
Should be 2022.
Right, sorry. I got it wrong. 2022-04.
Okay. And I second that.
There you go.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Moving on, approval of the treasurer's bond.
Right, and as I explained, this is still a required item for treasurers in libraries, and so it's $100,000. The main coverage, again, comes from our directors and officers policy. Once this is approved, it just really gets posted to the Gateway portal system and shows, that we have it.
Any questions? No. Then we'll move for approval of the treasurer's bond.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We have on our agenda, behind the scenes in collection and technical services, and collection services manager, Mr. Etzel. and also our Discovery Services Manager, Christine Dieterich. Thank you.
I'm Matt Etzel, the Collection Services Manager.
And I am Christine Diedrich, the Discovery Services Manager. I manage our Technical Services Department, which is made of cataloging and acquisitions. And we have for you a behind-the-scenes look at the work Collection Services and Technical Services does to add items to the collection and get them to the shelves.
Made in-house by our own Kay Gregg.
Here at the Allen County Public Library, we have a collection of more than 2.4 million books across 14 branches. And beyond books, our shelves hold nearly 500,000 non-book items like books on CD, educational materials, board games, video games, CDs, and DVDs. And of course, we have millions of items available in digital format through virtual databases we make available for our patrons at no cost. But have you ever wondered how those books get on the shelf? Well, I'm Matt Etzel, Collection Services Manager, and I'm here to tell you how our superhero team of experts keeps the heart of our library, the books, beating right here at our DeSalle location. Our Collection Services Department combs through reviews, critiques, and synopsis of the millions of published books, games, and materials each year. This process is called selection. The mighty selection team includes an adult collection specialist, a youth collection development specialist, and a non-print collections development specialist. This crew works tirelessly to choose just the right books, materials, and databases for our patrons, including everything from popular fiction to cookbooks, DVDs, puzzles, and board games for adults, children, and teens. Every day they strive to balance popularity with the need to maintain a diverse collection that speaks to all patrons of the ACPL. It isn't always easy, but judging by the high circulation of our library system, they're doing a stellar job of anticipating the needs of our community and finding materials that resonate. But sometimes, rarely, there is a patron looking for a book that we just don't have in our collection. Usually it's a branch employee that learns of their need, and that employee will show them how to submit a request through their account, where the patron tells us what they're looking for. That process then goes to the Collection Services Department, where our team gets to work. Whichever way a book is selected, once it's on the list, it moves to Technical Services under the direction of Christine Diedrich, the Technical Services Manager.
My team gets to work right away. They do the purchasing paperwork for finance, place the orders, and make arrangements for shipping. They also create a basic entry in our online catalog. Although it will show as on order, patrons can still find and place holds before the books are even delivered. We receive daily shipments of orders into our receiving dock. Shipments are checked against the orders, and a slip showing which branch gets each copy of a title is put into one of the copies. Items are divided onto carts by material type and age. They're also outfitted with an agency sticker, barcode, and ACPL stamp. After the materials are received, they have to be cataloged. This includes finalizing the full record in our library ILS system. If a record already exists, we check for accuracy, spelling, grammar, and a thorough description for our patrons. If no record exists, we create one, and libraries across the country can use it for their catalogs. Oh, and of course we assign a call number that will place the item where a patron is the most likely to find it. Those spine labels are more than pretty packaging. They're key to connecting a patron with the book of their dreams. After all of this processing, the book is routed to the shelf by our couriers and into the hands of our patrons. On average, there's at least one tub of new material delivered to each branch daily.
There you go, the entire process from selection to shelf, and it all happens here at our DeSalle location. It truly is a magical place where books are forever changed from paper and ink to permanent community resources. Their impact is boundless, and it's all the work of our collection services and technical services experts.
That's it. Well done.
Any questions for Matt and Christine?
I just would like to say that is amazing how you can do that with so many new books. I'm more familiar with those who are for elementary children, and there are enough picture books, let alone when you look at the whole scheme of things that come through and that you're able to process them and get them to us so quickly. And we also have the funds to purchase them.
Yeah,
We're very
that's
grateful.
great.
Thank you.
Yeah, I did have a few questions. I was kind of want to, because we talked, I think the most important thing we said in the video was you're selecting for all patrons. So it's it's a big task to do because there's a lot of various viewpoints out there for people. Can you just explain kind of to us what are your criteria? You're looking for popularity versus diversity. How do you know? What are you looking at? And what is the training of the people that are looking? Who's part of your staff and what kind of training have they had to be ready for this?
Yeah, so the selection team are all librarians, MLS trained librarians. We do a lot of training on diversity, equity, inclusion. So we're making sure all the viewpoints are there. And we're not just relying on our own knowledge. We're looking at outside sources, reading lists, book lists, reviews, things like that as well to really curate the best selection for everybody. Yeah.
Can I chime in on that too?
Yeah, absolutely.
The 3 selectors all came to ACPL with extensive experience. The juvenile material selector is actually a published children's author herself. So they're also bringing in that firsthand public services experience as well when they make those decisions. And they do a lot of professional development training as well, go to conferences. Our selector for board games and puzzles, which is becoming an increasingly popular part of our collection, very diverse offerings there. He goes to an annual conference in Indianapolis just on these topics to learn about the latest and the greatest.
Do you take selections from suggestions for different items, games?
Yeah, absolutely. We have a purchase selection materials request, so an item request manager in the catalog. Any patron with a library card can go into their account and request materials at any time, and then, or of course, they can just talk to a librarian, and they'll push that through to my team.
Okay.
Can you talk a little bit about the communication around that, either around how new books are communicated out, that you have them, obviously they're in the catalog, things along those lines, but what else happens? And then also, when people make a request for a book, I'm sure we don't buy every book. I mean, from that standpoint, we can't, I don't think we ever could. So is that communicated back that we weren't able to select the book, or is it communicated that we did select the book, or how does that all work?
Yeah, if they place the request through their account in the item request manager, there's emails, of course, acknowledgement that we got the request, and then whatever happens. We did get it, we didn't get it. It's pretty rare in my experience to not get a book, and there would have to be a really specific reason, very limited publication, some self-published. We'll purchase self-published, but some just not available, that kind of thing, or very niche academic audience that it wouldn't have the widespread appeal that we feel. So.
Can I offer a little bit to that as well? One thing we're finding more and more, we do get requests for things that unfortunately we are not able to buy physical copies. For instance, shows on Netflix.
Yeah.
Like people will request, oh, can you buy Wednesday? Can you buy Stranger Things? Well, sometimes you can't because it literally does not exist. If it could, we definitely would.
Yeah.
And as far as how patrons are connecting to the new books, a few ways. One is our librarians do an amazing job of merchandising displays. If you go into any of our locations, you are going to see displays of new books. You are going to see displays of Christmas books, Christmas cooking books, winter books. So that is one of the main ways that patrons are connecting with books. Also on our website, if you scroll down, there's something that we call carousels, and they are themed book lists on various topics, usually seasonal or holidays or particular subjects. And that's been another effective way to get the word out about those new items. And then Aja was actually on TV. That aired today, didn't it, Aja? On Wayne TV on the, what is that show called?
Living Local 15.
Thank you.
Jessica Williams.
Yes, and she was invited on to talk about holiday books, so that's another way as well. And I will be quiet eventually, we have a weekly column in the Journal Gazette that our librarians put together on new books, plus also a thematic book list. So I'm sure this month there's probably something on cozy reads or winter favorites, and that's every Sunday in the Journal Gazette.
Just had one more question, then two comments. I'm sorry. were you
I'm
gonna-
just going to add that patrons also can opt in for various frequency of communication based on genre and, their interests to receive the latest additions to the collection as well. So lots of ways for them to find out as soon as it's on our shelves.
The last question I had was on the time frame for getting it, from the time you get it to the time it gets on the shelf. I think last time you presented, or we had this, there was a pretty good improvement from over the years or so. You've been able to maintain that, or are we still kind of, what is our time frame now?
We have, it varies based on time of year. Right now, we've got a lot of orders coming in, end-of-year shipments. A lot gets published towards the end of the year. On average, our department is at a point where from the time it comes into our building to the time it goes out, we like to take no more than 3 weeks max. A lot of times it's sooner than that. We usually get to a point where we are receiving items that haven't even been released yet, so we have to hold on to them until we can send them out to the branches.
And holds. Good.
And also, we give priority to holds. An item that a patron has a hold on, we try to get those out sooner because we know people are waiting for those.
Okay. And the only other thing I wanted to say is whoever came up with the idea to put the date of acquisition on the spine, brilliant idea. I think that was a really, really good idea for us.
Yeah,
Before my time.
Yep,
Thank
it
you.
was, we discovered that at another library, and we were happy to be able to implement that here also.
Further questions?
I just had one comment. These videos that we're seeing on occasion, are we putting them up on the website somehow, like what we do or something like that? Because I don't think they should be limited to just us as the audience, so.
Some of them we are, yes, and some of them are on our YouTube channel as well.
Okay.
They are excellent, and we are so fortunate to have the in-house talent of Access Fort Wayne to make these videos.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very
Thank you.
informational. Thanks. Okay. Moving on to committee reports. Do we have anything under capital projects to share?
Capital projects, it's just limited. We did have a presentation to the Fort Wayne Community School Board. We were able to present them information on the facilities master plan, kind of where we are in the community sport. We've said it before, we're trying to build our community sport before we bring it to the county council, and that's what we're working, our goal is.
Very good. I'm sure it was well received. Any other input? Yep, okay. Nominating committee. I can present to you the slate. It looks like everyone would like to return. President, Mr. Eisbart. Secretary, Ms. Shamanoff. Vice President, Ms. Tucker. If we'd like to have some conversation about that, or if you would like to nominate another individual.
Motion for approval of the slate?
Second.
That was quick. And with a smile.
Need to vote.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. Any comments?
Thank you for your service.
You're very welcome.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sure it'll be a busy year. We know we've got a lot to do, so.
Well, all of you have busy opportunities here with the board that you do, so that's good. That we need to spread that around. So I'm grateful to take on my share. Review of the internet policy.
Thank you, Gloria. This is something where we don't need a motion, but we do need to let the record show that we did review the policy. So in a few weeks, we'll be starting on our annual report for the state library, and one of the questions on the report will be, did you review your internet policy? And we are right now, and it was last updated in 2020, and at this time, we are not recommending any changes. We are happy to answer any questions you might have, but we just need to let the record show that we did review it.
Any comments?
Who reviews it, Susan? Who's in charge of reviewing this policy for you, and who else is
Well,
kind of going over that?
Ultimately, since it's a policy, it would be up to the board for final approval, but
Okay.
as far as internal review, it would be reviewed by our management team and senior staff.
Okay.
All right, moving along, approval of the new federal compliance rule for high deductible health plan.
I'll turn that over to Lorraine.
afternoon. So the day after our board meeting in November, Frank Johnson with Epic called me and let us know that there was a federal compliance change to the individual high deductible employee health plan for 2023. What was in your packet last month had the individual deductible at $2,800. To meet those federal requirements, we have to be at $3,000. Employees were informed of this change prior to open enrollment, which happened in between the board meeting and today. There's no federal change, or this federal change has no impact, fiscal impact to ACPL. It's just the additional $200 to the employee individual deductible. So we're requesting that the board move to approve this change to the 2023 benefit plan in order to comply with federal requirements.
Well, I think it would be a bad idea not to comply with the requirements. So I move we do so.
Thank you. And we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Right. Thank you for that. Approval of the 2023 authorized staffing table.
That is Lori again.
I'll just stay up here. So I'm coming to you with these requests as we do in December. November is the salary and benefits, and then December is the approved staffing table for 2023. I'm coming to you with some requests for a few changes in titles and or grades. The comprehensive requests that are in your packet are outlined in the packet and in the staffing table. Any fiscal impact related to these adjustments was included in the compensation proposal approved last month. So there's no additional fiscal impact. It's just really changing the staffing table officially. So the first request is to change the pay grade of our maintenance manager. He's currently at an M2 and changing it to an M3. That maintenance manager is a system-wide role and is responsible for the upkeep at all locations. We've also added the logistics and warehouse underneath his umbrella. So that request is changing just his pay grade from M2 to M3. The same goes for the EVS manager, requesting to change from an M2 to an M3 pay grade. For the same reasons as the maintenance manager, our EVS manager is system-wide, traveling to branches, responsible for the cleanliness of the buildings, the landscaping, and the snow removal at all branches. The third request is to change the logistics supervisor to a logistics manager. All managers are M2 pay grades, so it would be moving from an M1 to an M2. The logistics manager oversees the courier system, so those big gray tubs you saw in the video are bringing all of those to all the locations every day. The shipping and receiving and the warehouse at DeSalle. The next request is to change the MSS supervisor from an A3 to an M1, where all other supervisors are at. This was the only supervisor role not changed to an M1 during the Pontifex salary study and is more appropriate for the supervisors who handle the scheduling, the projects, performance reviews, general supervisory duty here at Maine. The next request relates back to the service model reorg at Maine a few months ago and is requesting the user experience manager title to be changed to system services manager. This isn't a change in pay grade. It's just the new, different duties and different title, but not a different pay grade. The next request is changing the discovery services manager to technical services manager to more appropriately match with the department that they oversee. There's no changes in pay grade with this, no additional changes to the job description, it's just the title change. The next request relates back to the service model reorg again and is to add the title of the circulation specialist to the staffing table. These are not new roles, but rather changing certain incumbents that are currently called branch assistants, but are carrying out the duties of a circulation specialist. There are 8 of them, 5 at the branches and 3 here at Maine. So part of when we did this reorganization of our service model was to have a point person for circulation requests at the branches, so it wasn't just here at Maine. So we have some of those circulation specialists unofficially at the branches and at Maine right now. So the request is to change their title to circulation specialist and changing from an A2 to an A3 pay grade, which is to reflect that specialist role. The next request is to adjust the title and grade for the audio reading services production assistant to senior production assistant, moving from an A2 to an A3 pay grade. This position is a regular backup for our broadcast coordinator, takes the lead and supervision of the 100-plus volunteers, as well as coordinating the listener experience for the reader newsletter, application process, database, and digital content. So it would be a change in title and grade. You all are being incredibly patient. I've only got a few left. The next request is to add a title of a senior event technician to the staffing table. So this would be an opportunity to internally promote an event technician and allow for a lead or backup in the absence of our event manager. So this would be a promotion of an internal candidate already. It would be a grade change from an A2 to an A3. The next request is to add a position to the staffing table for a logistics support officer. We actually had this position a few years ago before I was here, and it was a support for the couriers and security. We took the full-time print shop technician vacancy that we had, made it part-time because we didn't really need that to be a full-time position, and so took that full-time benefit position over to this logistics support officer, which is actually a reduction in budget because it was a lower pay grade. So asking to add the logistics support officer as an A1 pay grade to our staffing table. Second to last one is the computer user support specialist, changing it to an IT support specialist. That would be a move from an A2 to an A3 pay grade and would widen the focus to the IT help desk and support rather than just focusing on computers and the hardware. And the last request is to change the current purchasing agent position. It's a vacant right now, changing it from an A3 to an A4 pay grade. No change in title, but this position is the sole position for processing POs for all non-library material items, including office equipment, furniture, supplies, etc. So it would be changing it to the A4, which is a technical level on the staffing table.
Any comments, questions?
I know it was a lot. I appreciate your patience.
There are some that went from like an A3 up to an M1. Is that because the job description added some managerial responsibilities,
Yes.
and so it needs to move into that category for that reason?
Yeah, they had supervisor titles as an A3, which is an incredibly low pay grade for a supervisor. So yes, we added some of the duties so that they were actually supportive of an M1 pay grade.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Any further
And you said
comments?
this was basically already included in what we had approved.
Correct.
For the financial
yep,
impact.
there's no fiscal impact to
Okay.
these adjustments.
For those of us sitting here and those of you who are listening, isn't it amazing how many jobs are required to run this system and how effective they are? So I'm glad
We've
that
got
we
good
have
staff.
people who are willing to come and work with the Allen County Public Library family. That's
Yeah.
wonderful.
Thank you.
So, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Appointment of the building corporation officers.
I think we missed number 13.
We did. I'm trying to rush, right? Okay. You would think I'm waiting for some kind of big meal or something that I'm rushing for, but that's not the case. Proposal of circulation schedule and policy changes.
That's me. Thank you, Gloria. So we're coming to you with a slate of proposals to change our circulation policy. And this is coming from what has truly been a year of research and surveys and talking to our peer libraries in Indiana and across the country to see what the best, most proven practices are in regards to removing barriers, increasing usage, and getting people back to the library as we came out of COVID. So I will be presenting a list of these changes for you. Feel free to stop me at any time to get additional information. And thankfully, I do have a whole gallery here of subject matter experts that I might lean on if you have any specific questions. Ready to dig in? Okay. Our first one is the really big, exciting one that we've been talking about for quite a while, going fine-free for all, effective January 3rd of 2023. As you know, last year at this exact meeting in December, you approved going fine-free for minors. That has gone exceptionally well. You can see the numbers. Going from year 2017 with 9,300 youth checking out materials that year, and over 121,000 items checked out by those youth. Of course, we have some pandemic years in between, but now in 2022, and this isn't even the complete numbers for 2022 because we got these stats right at the beginning of December. We're up to 7,868 number of youth who checked out, and again, that's over double what checked out in 2021. But here's the number that really excites me. 198,999. Oh my gosh, we almost made 199,000, right? Number of items checked out by youth just this year alone. Look at that in comparison to 2017. So I absolutely believe that that is direct impact of going fine-free for youth. And the good news is any sort of increase in cost for material replacement for going fine-free for youth, that just hasn't happened. We've talked to our selectors, and they are not seeing any difference in that. So what we are recommending is that starting January 3rd, adults will be fine-free as well. More than 80 Indiana public libraries have already gone fine-free. And according to the Library Journal survey that I shared last meeting, the percentage of U.S. libraries charging fines has decreased from 92% to 36% over the past 5 years. So at this point, this is no longer a trend. This is becoming the common way libraries do business. We even found out on this upcoming annual report from the State Library, one of the questions for the first time will be, does your library charge fines? So we are recommending that at this meeting, we change our policy to be fine-free for all. Fine-free does not mean responsibility-free. Patrons will still be required to replace lost books and damaged books. Before I head into the rest of the list, are there any questions or comments on that?
I think we do need to ask, and I don't know if Dave is prepared, what has been the fines for adults for the I'm not sure if we count the COVID years or not, but what do you tell us, give us a sense, and how it impacts the budget?
I'm projecting that fines would be 182,000 this year for 2022.
And I think if I'm reading this correctly, Dave, this year so far, year to date, we've collected $167,520.72.
Exactly.
Okay.
I have built the 23 budget, of course, with no fine revenue coming in. And this revenue source has been declining for years. I think at its peak, it may have been 550,000 years ago, but it has been going down. It was 225,000 last year, dropping down to projected 182 this year. So it would be, I can't say it has no impact, but I have modeled the budget where that revenue is not included, and it's all balanced and complete, so.
Would it be fair to say part of the reason it's been going down is because we made it so easy to renew?
Yeah,
Now,
absolutely.
online, instead of having to call in or come here in
Absolutely.
person, you can just do it on your app, do it online at the
That,
catalog.
that had a major impact when we implemented the electronic ability to renew and take care of that, so.
I would add to that the increasing use of electronic materials because
Yes.
those are fine-free by nature.
Okay. All right. I would only say that Susan knows when she first suggested this some time ago, I was against it because I've been paying fines for a long time. But I have been convinced, and I do think, given I won't say negligible, but the impact on the budget is not enough for me to be against this anymore. I do think as long as we're still requiring they be returned and cutting it off, And I will say for the record, I paid my fines yesterday, so knowing this would happen, so I am not
So
conflicted.
easy to renew, Marty.
And now and then I miss up. So.
I think Andrew Carnegie would be very supportive of this plan, so.
I think with that, that's what I was going to say. I think the goal is to continue to increase that circulation and keep people using the resources that are here. I know we've had off and on conversations about it over the years, and I think one thing that Paul Moss, who's obviously on the board, has stated to me, he said, you know, we've been operating efficiently over the last several years and things along those lines. At one point, these fines, you know, were more significant and impacted operations, and it paid for other programming and other things along those lines from an operations standpoint, but we've also been running efficiently with the reserve every year. And so from that standpoint, you know, he had said it's a way of returning those tax dollars back to people to make sure they can still have access to what we provide. And so that was one point that it kind of flipped a switch in my mind as well, to say, you know, we're being good stewards at this point to make sure that the services are being received, or supplies are being borrowed and provided, whatever you want to say, to the public. And so I think that's been positive. I did want to ask, I mean, there's a larger number, that $772,000 number that's in our packet. That's over the last 7 years worth of uncollected fines and things along those lines, if I'm reading that right?
You're reading it correctly, and that is overdue fines. That does not include lost materials, damaged
Right.
materials. That's
Yeah.
just stuff that came back late.
And that's just cumulative. I mean, it's a big number, but it's one of those things that, you know, you kind of look at that and say, if we've collected 160-some thousand this year, that, you know, over the years, there's probably some people, as it says on here, that have been on it for 7 years, and potentially stopping them from, you know, doing anything with our services, that it might open their, they'll open the opportunity back up, I guess I'll say it that way for them. So, but I just want to make sure I reflected and I understood what that number was, so.
You did.
And just to be clear too, just somebody doesn't renew for whatever reason, it goes over the 30 days, you charge them for the lost time, and they then show up with that lost time, it's in good shape, we're going to reverse that and take it off, right?
Absolutely, yes.
Say, whoops, I messed up, okay.
Any other questions?
And this, I guess I want to clarify, because I know that sometimes we've looked at this line and it's bigger, but we also have fees within the system that we pay, like people when they make copies and things along those lines, there's fees associated with some of that. I think that all gets kind of lumped into this area, but it's separate. That income is still, we're not doing anything different with those fees and things associated with consumer-related type of things, right?
No, though they're all considered user fees, but photocopying, faxing, pay for print, et cetera, those are all unaffected by this. So,
Okay.
Any other questions before I move into number 2? I've got 9 items, so not quite as many as Lorraine, but a lot, so. Number 2, we're pretty excited about as well. We're recommending that our board make an adjustment to our circulation policy to allow for out-of-county students, and that's kindergarten through graduate school, and out-of-county teachers teaching in K through 12th grade who attend school or teach in Allen County to obtain free library cards. So per Indiana code, Indiana public libraries may issue free library cards to students who attend a public or private school or college located at least in part within the library's taxing district, and/or teachers who teach at a school located at least in part within the library's taxing district if the library has a resolution stating such. So, in simpler terms, someone who's teaching in Fort Wayne Community Schools who is commuting in from Garrett. With this change, they would be allowed to have a free Allen County Public Library card, renewable annually, as long as they can provide work ID that shows they are teaching at Fort Wayne Community Schools. This has been in existence in Indiana law since about 2016, and several other Indiana libraries have had great success in strengthening their educational partnerships offering these cards. We've had a lot of conversations with local educators at the elementary, secondary, and university level, and they have shown there is a great needed interest in ACPL offering this expanded access. And you have a letter in your packet, and for the benefit of anybody watching at home, I would really like to read a short excerpt from it. I have a letter here from Dr. Isabel Nunez. She is the Dean of the School of Education at Purdue University, Fort Wayne. And when she found out that we were considering this change, she, and quite honestly, without my prompting, she asked if she could submit a letter of support for you to see. And she writes, "I am writing to express my excitement and gratitude that you are considering an expansion of your services to all students of local educational institutions. Many of the future teachers, school leaders, and human service professionals in our programs live outside the borders of Allen County. While out-of-county students in all university programs could benefit from access to the variety of resources available through the ACPL system, students in the School of Education would be particularly well-served by library cards. Not only do they consult scholarly publications of educational research in the course of their studies, they also need to utilize the trade books and popular media resources that will allow them to create learning experiences that will be engaging to today's young people. Extending access to all students of all local schools will very likely expand library usage within the regular service area. All PFW students in education programs are placed in Allen County classrooms for field experiences. If even out-of-county students held library cards, all of our future teachers would be able to demonstrate to their resident students how much of the wider world they can explore through the library. Welcoming our students from outside Allen County would help our university and other local schools better prepare all students to serve the region and beyond." Do you have any questions about this proposal?
I actually have one question. I support it, and is there any reason we're not including teachers at college who don't live in Allen County?
The law doesn't allow us to.
Well, that's too bad. Okay.
But I'm glad you mentioned that, Marty, because I think that is an important thing to bring up. We are basing this off of Indiana library law.
Okay.
So we had to follow those restrictions, and the idea was, because I asked, the state library has a lawyer, of course they do, right? So I asked her for some explanation behind it, and she said the idea behind the law was for our teachers to be able to check out materials and bring them into their classroom. And they're thinking that that's more likely to happen at the elementary and high school level versus the university level.
Okay.
Do we have any idea of the data behind this? I mean, how many are we talking from that standpoint?
It's hard to tell. It's really hard to tell, and I think it will factor in how well we market it. From our initial conversations, I think one of the bigger user groups are going to be those college students who commute in from surrounding counties.
Right, right. And then the other question I have is, if they're accessing services now, they just have an out-of-county, they pay for an out-of-county card, or how would they access services right now?
Well, any student who, if you are attending Allen County school, particularly a college, and you've moved to Allen County, then you're a resident of Allen County, so you have a normal library card. If you don't have a card, then you can come here and look at books. You can't check them out. You could use a database in-house, but that would be the extent of it. They wouldn't have access to things like our e-resources.
Okay.
I suggest we promote it at the colleges.
Absolutely.
So they know. So.
And the good
Okay.
news is that 2 members of our senior staff recently came from colleges locally. Aja was at Ivy Tech, and Beth used to work at PFW, so we have some great relationships already with them.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, moving on. Our third part of this proposal is to allow plaque and subscription card holders access to select e-resources for downloadable books and media. So plaque cards and subscription cards are for those folks who do not live in Allen County and are buying a card with us. Plaque cards are for folks who are in another library taxing district but want specific access to Allen County Public Library resources. And I'm looking at Mike to make sure that I said that correctly. I am, thank you. Subscription card holders are folks who do not live in any Indiana library taxing district, so they're buying a card. So as of our last annual report, where we have to report those numbers, this is a total of 573 card holders. We have received requests from these card holders, they've emailed me personally, asking for access to our digital content collections, our ebook collections like Hoopla, our e-music resources like Freegal. They currently do not have it. And we've determined that offering access to these select e-resources does not violate our licensing agreement with the vendors. There is one exception. Our agreement with our agreement with Overdrive, the Libby app, for those of you who use ebooks, that would violate our user agreement with them, and we would need to continue to not provide access to that one particular platform, but the others, we would be able to offer them access. Hoopla is the big one. It's very popular, and we've had people ask why they can't get it if they're buying a card from us.
And what are the cost of this, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The cost of these subscription cards?
The cost of the subscription cards, the plaque card is about $65. That is set by the state of Indiana. And then the subscription cards, that is based on what the per capita expenses of the library is. That's something that we figure out each year in our annual report. So right now, it is at $87, I believe. And I see some nods out there. Yes, I got that right.
I think we approved it 2 meetings ago or something like that, because I asked the question, why don't we just make it 100 and be done with it for a few years? But instead of having to go back every year. But-
Yeah, we usually approve it after the annual report is approved each year, because then we have the new math of what that per capita expense is. Okay, I'm going to move on, if there's no more questions on that. And thank you for hanging in there. I know there's a lot. Number 4, increase the threshold for sending patron accounts to our materials recovery service from exceeding $35 to exceeding $50 in fees. So we use a material recovery service called Unique, and that's a very commonly used system throughout libraries across the country, to help us connect with patrons who have long overdue items to get the items back. That is our ultimate goal, to get the items back. We've been in a relationship with them for many years. It is very successful. It's definitely a return on investment. Right now, if a patron's fees go over $35, we refer the account to Unique. Doing some research with peer libraries across the state and the country, particularly with just things costing more lately, we're finding that $35 was pretty low. And the quote-unquote going rate now to send an account over to that material recovery service is in the $50 range. So we are recommending that we increase our threshold from over $35 to over $50.
I just want to make sure I understand that. So basically, if somebody loses 3 books, it gets to be about $50. What does Unique do? Do they call them, write them, or what are they doing to recover
Yes,
them?
Mike, do you want to speak to that a bit?
Yeah, they do all that stuff. They reach out via mail, snail mail, emails if they have it, phone calls, whatever way to help facilitate that communication. They use skip tracing, so if they've moved since we have an old address, they'll send that back to us. So just helping us make that connection back to the patron.
And are we paying them per person?
Yes, and we each account that's sent, we do pay, but we pass that on to the patron.
Okay, you add it to the fine.
Yeah.
basically.
Yep.
So to clarify that, do they only get paid when it's successful? Is that how it works?
No, they get paid every time we refer someone to them because they're making efforts to.
Okay.
Just if they collect, we get reimbursed, essentially.
Yeah,
for-
then that
okay.
income comes in on our side.
Okay.
And that's after we've already exhausted our system practices.
Yep.
It
Correct.
doesn't go
Yep.
that far until we've existed what we do.
Correct. They
Or
would
exhausted,
have
sorry.
had several emails, notices,
Yeah.
and our physical mails as well prior to this.
And it is not a collection agency. It is a material recovery service. Yeah, the goals are very different, yeah. Okay, number 5, remove the $5 processing fee charged on top of the replacement cost of a lost item. So currently, if you lose your book, you lose your copy of Lord of the Flies, and you're paying the library for your lost book, we are also asking for $5 on top of that for what we call processing charges. And our own cost analysis shows that the replacement cost in and of itself provides an adequate amount of cost recovery, and the extra $5 on the top isn't necessary. there are any specific questions on that? Okay. Number 6 is to remove the $3 replacement card fee for lost library cards. So currently, if I've lost my library card, we are charging them $3 to issue a new card. The library card itself, it costs us about 51 cents. Mike is nodding, 51 cents. We've determined that that is unnecessary. It's not really a deterrent for people keeping or losing their cards. And also, just talking to our peers across the country, it's common practice for fine-free libraries to also not charge for replacement cards. And also, as you mentioned earlier, Marty, we have the app you can use as well to check out.
I have no idea where my card is. I haven't seen that thing in years.
There you go. Number 7, we are asking to increase non-sufficient fund check fee from $24 to $35, and that is just a cost recovery measure. Number 8 is just really cleaning up some language, removal of genealogy card for out-of-county residents. And Kurt, I may need you to speak specifically to it if there are any questions, but we've had it in our policy, but we haven't used that category of card for some time. Any visiting genealogists are eligible for computer access and print cards that we launched this year with our new printing system. So it's not something that's really needed. We have other mechanisms to get the visiting genealogists what they need. And finally, number 9, removing legal packets from fee list. Again, this is cleaning up some language. In our list of fees for printing, we have broken out, I think, divorce packets and a few other specific legal documents. And we would just rather remove that specific language and charge per page for the printing of these items like we would any other print job. And those are our recommendations. Do you have any questions?
I guess the only question, can you mentioned this has been a year in the making.
Yes.
How have you been doing this for the whole, as far as kind of having the staff go through not only the big ticket item, number 1, but all of these changes? Who's been involved in the process of putting this all together to bring to us?
Our management team.
Okay.
At our last management team meeting, we actually went through the fine schedule fee by fee to go through what was still necessary, and we got feedback from people who are working on the front lines with patrons who are having conversations about these fees, so that was a really important part to inform our process. To be very honest, we had our initial proposal, but then after the talk with our management team, we added a few more things. For instance, the increase the threshold for sending patron accounts to our material recovery service. I'll be honest, that wasn't on my radar, but several of our frontline managers said, we think that's really low and you should look into it, Susan. And I did look into it, and they were absolutely right. It was low. We also got some excellent feedback early in the year when we did an educator survey. We sent out a survey to teachers all throughout Allen County and did discover that several of them do commute in from other counties and would really appreciate having an Allen County Public Library card to be able to get materials for their classroom and also just be able to more effectively promote the library to their students. The best advocate for a child to have a library card is to hear from someone who has one and how wonderful it is.
On that point, what will the process be for proof of that they work somewhere, that in Allen County, that there's not just somebody coming and saying, hey, I'm a teacher at this school, and what's that process for us making sure that we're?
We would need to see a work ID,
Okay.
and they would be renewable each year.
And that will have a special application, I would presume?
I don't know if we need a special application.
It'd be the same application process now, it's just, when you go to select the membership type, the being out of county would trigger the request for, some other proof that you're either paying for a subscription or that you qualify for one of these teacher cards, or
Okay.
student cards.
I guess I just bring that up to say that, just making sure that we have an approval process that makes sense there, because
Yep.
I think a majority of people are trustworthy in this process. However, there are always people who try to skirt the system. So from that, I just want to make sure that if we say it's a valid ID, that those IDs actually have years on them, things along those lines when we're approving them, because I also know that that varies by school and not everybody, so whatever we have to put in place there to make sure that we're ensuring that it's accurate and in that way, just to be responsible
Absolutely.
with the resources we're charged with. The other question I have is, with the, if I understood it right, the plaque card cost is determined by the state.
Correct.
But the subscription card is our own threshold or our own level.
Yes.
From that standpoint. But all of these, I would assume that we'll be able to track, will we be able to track some kind of cost analysis or anything to understand the cost of that service? I'm mainly, as I look at that, and while I'm supportive of it from those things, I look at it and go, when we open up our digital side of things, I know that there's quite a few services that are user-based, and we pay higher and higher fees based on how many people are using them. And so I think, it's our responsibility to make sure that we don't have, thousands of people that aren't residents of Allen County using, I guess I just want to understand what that cost, and then we can reflect it in that subscription card, the cost of that subscription card as well, if we would need to. I just want us to be prudent with understanding what that cost would be, and
I
maybe
think
it's going to be
essentially what
minimal,
you're saying,
but-
so we don't want somebody paying 87 so they get into hoopla and suddenly, and be taking out 5 items every day, or whatever
Right.
the limit is.
And
I forget
suddenly
there's
it's,
limit, and suddenly
$250 worth of cost a
They're getting
year.
$200 of benefit every month,
Yeah,
suddenly.
yeah, whatever it is.
Word of that gets out, we could have a lot of people signing.
It's
Right.
something we'll definitely have to monitor.
Okay.
Yeah, so I just want to make sure that we have some safeguards in place. Again, it's always the exception to the rule that we have to think about, I think, on that end of it. But,
I mean, ultimately, if they're going with excessive usage, it's going to reflect then in our costs, which then would be factored into the new subscription cost.
right,
That's true, but.
yeah. And that's why I'm saying, make sure that we can potentially pull that data next year so we can understand when we're approving that fee structure, that it's truly, it's reflective. But I will say that that's already, and I don't know what our average, I can't remember what our average homeowner pays in Allen County for the library.
Well,
It's
our
much-
median is $22.97.
That's what I was thinking, so I mean, it's already, it's significantly higher, the subscription card is on that side of it already, but just thinking through it all.
Actually, that was wrong. That was the cost of the debt that was going to
That's
be
right, that
issued,
was
the
for the capital.
$22.97. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think the median's somewhere around 110
oh,
per
okay,
year.
for residents, okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we just have to think about that as we're moving forward.
I know that was a lot. I appreciate you hanging in there with me, and thank you, Mike, for your additional information. Any other questions? I would recommend that if you do choose to move forward with this proposal, that we have 2 motions. One, to approve the changes to the circulation policy, circulation schedule, and schedule of fees. I think it would be useful for posterity to have a separate resolution to allow the out-of-county students and teachers to have the free library cards.
Okay.
So we're completely kosher with state law.
Well, everything we said, I think, as we've said, we just like, not revisit, but get a report, same way you have for the fine free for youth in a year from now, so we kind of understand the impact and just make sure fiscally. But all that being said, I will move to approve the changes to the circulation policy, circulation schedule, and schedule of fees as presented, but excluding the item 2, which will be done by separate motion.
We have a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. And then moving on to the other motion.
I'll go ahead and make that same motion. I'll move to approve resolution allowing out-of-county students, and I won't repeat it all as stated in here, and item 2 of this list, to obtain library cards at no cost.
Have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. The proposals have been approved.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Very exciting.
Okay, moving on to the appointment of the building corporation officers.
And I may have Pete assist me with this as well. So we did send out a letter in November to our 5 current building corporation members, Alan Grinsfelder, Mike Horton, Tim Gosheff, Janice Code, and Rich Beck, to ask if they would want to be reappointed to the building corporation. Alan, Mike, Tim, and Rich Beck all replied in the affirmative. We have not heard back from Janice yet. And I think we could put off the approval until January if we wanted to, Pete. Could we, or what would you recommend?
You can defer it, sure. They are to be appointed before they have the annual meeting. We typically have the annual meeting in May. So you have time, but last year, I think we said it'd be a good idea to get them appointed before the end of the year. I suspect Jan is not going to want to be reappointed. She had said something about that last year. I don't know why she hasn't replied. But I think we have 4 individuals, current members, who are willing to return. And in my opinion, they might as well be appointed now. And then we'll be searching for a 5th one at some point to bring that to you.
So we're basing the non-response on the fact that she doesn't want to serve, I guess, from that standpoint. I guess I'm going to be careful of that, from that standpoint. But
She hinted at that.
Yeah.
So I don't think we should take that as a definitive position. But we have 4 members now who have responded. And you can wait if you want, but I'm not sure when we're going to hear from her.
She's pulled away from her position with the Friends Board, so I think there's some changes in the works.
Okay.
I guess there's no problem with us appointing 4 members right now, and then in January, if Janice changes her mind, we can decide whether to return her or we need to have those. Who's going to search for a new person? I guess that you, Susan? Who's
That's our
looking-
job, too.
Is that our job?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, we've done that in the
I
past.
got the last
Yep.
one, so it's
Tim,
not, and I
yes.
got
Yep.
Tim.
Yeah, I was going to say, we did this about 3 years ago, maybe we had that.
All right, well, I've suggested one of us do a motion to appoint those 4, and then also do a motion to appoint 1 or 2 people to go search for another member of the commission and report back at the next meeting. Or we could wait, but if they 4 want to, I don't see why we don't go ahead.
Well, I'll make a motion to renew Alan Grinsfelder, Michael Horton, Tim Gosheff, and Richard Beck to the Building Corporation Board.
Okay, second?
Second.
Okay, Martin. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, then we want the second motion to be that we will come back.
I guess, is it a motion or we just appoint a committee? We don't need
Yeah,
a
I don't
motion to
think
do
you
that.
need a
I guess I said that wrong, but
I'm willing to help find a Building Corporation member.
I will too. I'll work with Ken
Okay.
to do that.
Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate that. All right, director's report?
Great. I submitted a written report, and I have a few late-breaking news items as well. At their December meeting, the ACPL Foundation approved a funding request from the library for $112,500. And projects included in the request included $50,000 to expand Storyscape to 2 branch libraries. So our Storyscape that we have here in the main library, to have Storyscape models in 2 branch libraries, and also $16,000 to purchase 2 book bikes and pop-up library supplies.
Can I comment on that? The Fort Wayne Community School Board seemed happy to hear about the Storyscape.
They did.
Here, and also that we're going to the new branches, so I think they're going to be wondering why we don't go to all of them.
I think that's the goal eventually, yeah.
And I love having the 2 book bikes and pop-up library. That's for like festivals and things that we can get out to the public.
Festivals, parades, outreach,
Great.
absolutely.
Good.
And then the Friends approved $35,000 in support for projects and programs at their November meeting. And one such program that we're super excited about is creating book deposit collections for the libraries at 4 local agencies serving teens: Allen County Juvenile Center, Allen County Learning Academy, Gateway Woods, and the Youth Services Center. Very important work. We have had many great pieces in the press lately. Thank you, Aja. Outreach specialist John Frinke was interviewed by WBOI recently about the library at home memory kits. You may remember the presentation that happened last month where we showed off the kit. We've seen a lot of increase in interest and popularity since the board meeting and since this piece aired on WBOI, and you can watch or listen to it online. There was an estimated crowd of 35,000 people attending Night of Lights throughout downtown Fort Wayne on November 23rd. Kent, I'm sure you can speak to that firsthand
And I
as
was
well.
actually in that with my daughter, so.
Yes.
We participated there and then went to the embassy for the Festival of Trees, so.
The pictures were pretty remarkable, and the crowds and the cheer definitely filtered into the main library. We served more than 400 cups of hot chocolate. We actually ran out of hot chocolate, and our children's staff had an estimated 600 people visit their table over at the Grand Wayne Center, where they were doing holiday crafts. Our door count for that day at the main library was 2,887, the fourth highest day of the year so far.
Wow.
Yeah. Our maintenance staff installed 3 solar benches outside the main library. Eventually, the sun will come back, right? And we will enjoy them. The solar benches feature smart technologies that allow users to charge their devices using solar power while they're sitting on a bench. So we are excited to see those in action. A really beneficial partnership that we have been doing for the past few months is collecting shoes. We've collected over 400 pairs of shoes across ACPL locations and distributed to people in need, both in Allen County and across the world, in a partnership with the nonprofit called Changing Footprints. And the collaboration began at Monroeville branch, and then it spread out to other locations. And as Lorraine mentioned, we just wrapped up our open enrollment period, and our HR department had several informational sessions for staff to come in and ask questions about their benefits, so they are using them to the best of their advantage. And a few late-breaking items. Earlier in the week at the Fort Wayne Community School Board meeting, Marty was appointed for another term on the ACPL board, and we're grateful for that and grateful for him being willing to continue to serve. And just this morning, Paul Moss was appointed to another term by the Allen County Council. So again, we're grateful for that and thankful for Paul for wanting to serve again. Also wanted to share that Access Fort Wayne signed a 3-year interlocal services agreement, a renewal of the agreement with the commissioners, the county commissioners, for the production and airing of public meetings throughout Allen County. We did negotiate a price increase, and we will be getting $35,000 a year from the county to perform those services.
Excellent. Any comments with those comments? All right.
Oh, I guess I will comment. I walked in here yesterday, and I did see those solar benches. So of course, I had to go check them out. So interesting, and I hope it works. And if it does, I think we should try to expand it. But
We'd like to.
Let's see how these work out and make
Yeah.
sure they stay put.
Well. Okay, moving on. At this time, we would like to recognize the retirements of the Allen County Public Library employees as of for 2022 year. I'd like to say that those of you who've served on for the Allen County Public Library all these years, whether it's been just a year or 40-plus years, your service has been greatly appreciated by our board members, and we wish you the best in what direction you choose to go. I, as a current retired individual, am enjoying it. I find much more time to read my books, and I'm very happy with that. So
Now we know why she's rushing through the meeting. Go back to her books and her retirement life.
That's right. So we wish all of you, and thank you so very much for your service to the Allen County Public Library family.
Thank you. All right. So I'll go in order of the years of service. Topher Schlatter retired from our IT department after 39 years of service earlier this spring. Tim Corey also retired from our IT services department after 27 years. He was almost to 28 years of service. John Heidi retired from our security department after 24 years of service with ACPL. Alex McQuaid, who I miss dearly, retired from HR after 16 years of service to ACPL. Laura Emme is retiring this month after 10 years. She's in public services in our circulation department. Kaylin Iska retired after 7 years, also from our public services, actually our reader services department. And Denise Davis, who is here for 5 years from the director's office. I want to echo Gloria's sentiments in thanking those staff for their years of service and for the staff that we've celebrated this year that are continuing their years of service here. I really appreciate it.
Gloria, when you said whether you've been here 1 year or 40 years, we literally have in this room employees who have been here 40 years and employees who have been here less than 1 year. So the gamut is represented here, yes.
Good. All right. Any new business to bring up at this moment? Okay. Hearing that there is none, do we have any public comments? None? All right. Do we have anyone listening? No? Well,
With comment. I'm sure there are people listening. Sure there are people listening.
all right. Well, we would like to wish, on behalf of the Allen County Public Library family, to wish all of our patrons a very joyous and heartfelt holiday season.
I move we adjourn.
I'll second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay.